So, as I'm recording this, it's now December 31st, 2014. Tonight, beginning of tomorrow, it becomes 2015. Happy New Year. I was looking around my YouTube channel and realized that it's been a couple of years since I made a video. The last one was, oddly enough, Samhain. And here we are just past Yule, which is the next holiday. So I thought, well, let's talk about Yule. Specifically, I think we're going to talk a little bit about what I do for Yule. Now, most people know Yule as Christmas. Most people in the country, around the world, are part of an Abrahamic belief system, whether that's Christian, Judaism, or Islam. Most people seem to belong to an Abrahamic faith of some sort. So they celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah, and I honestly don't know what the Islamic celebration at this time of year is. Aside from the fact that they all come from a root spiritual system, why do they all celebrate at this time of year? Well, the answer to that is because the spiritual beliefs before them all celebrated this time of year. They all celebrated the winter solstice. Why celebrate the winter solstice? Well, because it is an easily figured out time of year. It's the longest night, the shortest day. The hours of darkness are far greater than the hours of light, at least in the northern hemisphere. If you're in Australia, you're celebrating summer solstice. It's a way of keeping track of time. It's a way of knowing where you're at in the year. That's important if you're an agrarian culture. If your life depends on growing crops, you need to know what time of the year you're at. And in Wicca, witchcraft, most of the pagan belief systems, we celebrate holidays almost equally spaced around the year. It's one of the reasons why we call it the Wheel of the Year, is we have all of these holidays spaced fairly equally around the year, and the year never ends, never begins, it just continues on, and therefore it is like a wheel. So you can think of each of these holidays as a spoke on this wheel. In this case, we're talking about Yule. Well, why celebrate it? Well, as I said, it's a way of keeping track of time. It's a way of knowing where you're at in the year. And the equinoxes and summer solstice are the four most easily noticed times of the year. Winter solstice, Yule, being the shortest day, summer solstice being the longest day, and then the two equinoxes where the sun and the day and the night are equally balanced between each other. Fairly easy to figure out with just some basic understanding and observations. So how do we celebrate Yule? Where does it come from? Well, as I said, most pagan belief systems, pre-Christian belief systems, have some sort of holiday, some sort of festival at this time of year. The Romans called it Saturnalia, and they celebrated for an entire week. The Norse had a similar celebration. In fact, a lot of what most people consider to be Christmas traditions are actually Norse traditions. It was the Norse who took evergreen trees, those trees that never fade, that are always green no matter what time of year, and decorated them. They decorated them with the fruits that were available during this time of the year, mainly apples, which is why the traditional Christmas tree ornament is round and red. It resembles an apple. And the point of doing this is well, it's twofold. One is it is a way of looking forward, of recognizing that we've made it halfway through the winter. You know, the calendar says that Yule, the winter solstice, is the first day of winter. It's actually the middle of winter. And if you think about it, that makes sense. It's that point at the peak of winter. We've had that fall going into winter. It got colder, 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 snow, all that. We've got to the peak now. Now we start days start getting longer and longer and longer. We start heading towards summer, spring and summer. So it really is the center of winter, not the beginning of winter. And one of the reasons for decorating this evergreen is to remind yourself we're coming out of this long, cold, dark time of year. We're going to see the days get longer. In fact, even here at New Year's, I can tell the days are slightly longer. Not by much, maybe a minute or two, but they're longer than they were at Yule. We've made it halfway through the hard part of the year, the time where you have to, as an agrarian society who grows or hunts all of your food in stores for the winter, hopefully you stored enough to last you all the way through winter. If you didn't, people are going to die. So it's a way of celebrating the fact that we've made it halfway through. Literally, the light is in the distance. The other reason for decorating the tree is an act of sympathetic magic. Sympathetic magic is like begets like. So, for example, you decorate this tree with fruit, even though that fruit doesn't naturally grow on an evergreen. It's a green tree growing and it has fruit on it. And we want all these other trees that we know about, either that we are growing in an orchard or that are growing wild, we want them to bear fruit just like this. And so we decorate this tree to represent what we want the other trees to start doing. At some point, they started lighting that tree. Originally it was with candles. And they lit the candles and they lit this tree in order to shine light upon it, to bring attention to it, so that the rest of the forest would notice this tree. This tree is a magical tree. This tree represents everything that we as a society, as a culture, as a village are hoping for in the next few months. And so we bring attention to it so that the rest of the forest, because understand that to our ancestors, the forest was a sentient being. It was not only alive, but it understood. All living things understand in some way. And so we want the rest of the forest to pay attention to this one tree that we've decorated and lit up. And so we draw attention to it as best we can by making it, honestly, as gaudy as possible. So that's where at least the Christmas tree tradition comes from. The act of giving presents, well, the Christians say that, the three wise men came and gave gifts to the Christ child on his birthday. The pagans, on the other hand, look at it and say, well, we're celebrating. We have something worth celebrating, and so why wouldn't we give gifts? Why wouldn't we exchange tokens with each other to celebrate the fact that spring's coming? We can almost see it. It's, we've made it through, hopefully we've made it through the worst part, the darkest part, the coldest part of the year. And now things start to warm up and get brighter and the days get longer. So let's exchange gifts. In my tradition, what we've done for the past couple of years, now that I have a Coven stead that I can actually use, we have lit a Yule fire and we've tended it all night long. Why would we do that? What's the significance of a Yule fire? Why go to the trouble of staying out in the cold and the dark all night long on the longest night possible in order to do a ritual? Well, we do this because in this ritual, we ritualistically, in fact, let me grab this. We take this lens, and for those of you who have ever been in theater, you'll recognize it as a Fresnel lens. We take this lens and we focus the light of the setting sun onto the wood of the fire. Now the light is far too weak to actually start any kind of fire, but magically we take that light and we focus it onto the fire. What we're doing is ritualistically imbuing that fire, that pile of wood, with the energy of the sun. And so when we light that fire, it's not just a fire, it is a mini sun. It is the spiritual, magical embodiment of the sun. because in my tradition, the sun dies at Yule and is reborn again. So what we're doing by having the fire and tending it, making sure that it doesn't go out, making sure that it stays bright all night long until sunrise, is we are holding the energy of the sun safe within that fire. Now, we've done this 2 years in a row. The first year, last year, it was bitterly cold. It was so cold, in fact, that by sunrise there was a freezing fog that enveloped the entire area. I couldn't see the sunrise. We walked up to the top of a hill here close by to watch the sunrise. I couldn't see it. A couple of friends of mine, the Celtic Reconstructionists, Chris and Kelly, both claimed to have seen the sun. Now, that may be that it was a magical vision, or they may have actually seen it. Who am I to say? This year it was not quite as cold. It got very cold just before dawn. Now, just before dawn, just as we're starting to see light in the east, I take the lens again, and this time I reverse it. Now we're taking the energy of the fire and we're sending it back to the sun, because we want that energy, the sun's energy, to go back and reignite and warm the earth. And so I take it and hold it in front of the fire for a few minutes and let that energy magically transfer to the sun. And then we go and we watch the sun rise, because we want to be there to greet it. We want to, we want to verify that our magic has worked, that our work has happened. But also because that first sunrise after Yule is a magical moment. It is a time, it is a doorway from what was to what is. And you find in magic that doorways, transitions, are very magical things. That's one of the reasons why the Romans had the god Janus. He was the god of doorways and new beginnings. And when you look at magic and you look at the way magic works, you begin to understand that he was a very powerful god, simply because he had dominion over the doorways, the transitions, the departures and arrivals, and the new beginnings of things. So Yule, the sunrise, in fact the night from sundown to sunrise, is a transition period from the old into the new. And so we celebrate that in a magical way. We also, of course, decorated the tree, and we exchanged gifts, and we talked, and we enjoyed ourselves. We drank, we ate. And one of the traditions is that since it's my homestead, since it's my covenstead, my coven serves the main course for dinner, and that main course has so far been beef stew, for several reasons. It's easy to make, it's filling, you can make gobs of it for as many people who might show up, but also it's a traditional for this time of year, because if you think about it, that's probably what our ancestors would have eaten a lot of, aside from the grain that they hopefully have stored. If they've gone hunting, they might have meat, but more likely they've got vegetables and other things that they've stored that at this point are getting pretty ripe. So they need to do something with it. So they're going to throw it all into a pot of water, boil it, and eat it. And so stew is a very traditional meal at this time of year. The next morning, after we greet the sun, we come down. One of my coven mates and students spent a lot of time in the South growing up, and so we serve a traditional Southern breakfast. Not very healthy, but man is it good. This year it was biscuits and gravy with sausage and bacon and eggs. It was fantastic. And we serve it for everybody who has happened to stay through the entire night. Last year we had a whole lot of folks who came, and a bunch of them left. Some of them actually came back. They went up to the drumming up the sun up in the mountains and came back to have breakfast with us. This year we had a much smaller group. It was probably about 5 or 6 of us who actually stayed and spent the entire night performing this ritual, and talking and joking and laughing and just having a lot of fun. Ritual should be fun. There's a serious aspect to it. In this case, the serious aspect is we need to make sure that fire stays lit. We need to make sure that no matter what, we've got that fire going all night long. We can't allow it to go down. We must keep it going. That's the serious part of the ritual. But The fun part is gathering with friends, gathering with people you enjoy and like and enjoy being around, and talking and spending time all night long, talking and joking and having fun, exchanging gifts. And our gift exchange is not a straightforward gift exchange. It involves stealing from other people, thereby making it a whole lot more fun. But we try and come up with things that will allow people to have a good time all night long, because it's really difficult to stay up all night if you're just sitting there watching TV or you've got nothing to do. So we do our best to try and keep people occupied. But yeah, this year and last year, our Yule celebration was fantastic. We had a wonderful time, and we've created a tradition. We have started something that I think is a real fun way to celebrate that most people are unaware of. My neighbors, I've got, I live in the suburbs, but I got neighbors all around me. They don't quite understand. Fortunately, no one has called the fire department yet. That would be rather interesting to try and explain. But for the most part, the neighbors, at least the one who can see my backyard, he has no problem. He's seen us out there doing ritual before, and he's an old hippie and likes to play his 5-string banjo, and he and I get along great. And so, getting along with the neighbors and having understanding neighbors is wonderful, because it allows us to do things out in the open that a lot of witches are just afraid to do. It allows us the freedom to practice our faith in the way that we choose to do it. So, I just thought I would go over, basics of the holiday and how we celebrate it. And that's it for now. I hope to make some more videos, hopefully before Imbolc, but we'll see. Thanks for watching.